to welcome some very special guests today, Ari Levertov and Baumann. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm really excited. I hear that you have a new venture that you've begun, and I want to hear a little bit more about your backgrounds individually, and then we'll dive into how this was born. So Ari, if you can just jump in and tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do. Then we'll have Yossi tell us a little bit about himself as well.
So starting out in the food business to e-commerce to manufacturing, wholesaling to more recent project management, the common denominator in all of them was, using my network to even a little bit that I had back then, being resourceful, not relying on the little bit of training I got, but being resourceful and just learning it on the job and getting it done. So it doesn't matter what industry or the specific job was, the common denominator was always, coordination, logistics, utilizing, I like to say, utilizing the network and my resources to pull project together.
Amazing. And is that how the Entrepreneurial Referral Network was born?
Yeah. I mean, that's an interesting story in itself that about just under a year and a half ago, I started doing 2 years ago, I should say, started doing project management, fractional project management. And I figured, okay, I have a little bit of a network, been active on LinkedIn, been going to events here and there, but, it wasn't like that large. And how do you get inside with a business owner that, I'm not like an outgoing kind of salesperson. So I said, let's, come up with something a little interesting to at the same time help people. And we started just, on a WhatsApp group. I was the kind of guy who was always referring anyway. So I said, let's start this group, and started with 30 people. It grew. And then, now we're almost 1,000 people and it's still growing. And it turned, morphed into something, a community of its own.
Amazing. It's very exciting. It's a really beautiful network to be in. And Yossi, can you tell us a little bit about your background and what kind of businesses you have multiple? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So currently I am the executive vice president at a company called Bitbean, which is based out of Lakewood. I don't live there. I live about 2 hours away from there. So I only go there about once a week. But Bitbean is a one-stop custom development shop. We do software development. We've done work for the likes of United Airlines, to Walmart, to, et cetera. But a couple of years ago, I joined Ephraim, my partner, in building out a couple of different SaaS products. We've done things in healthcare, to real estate, nonprofit. In the Jewish world, we've done things such as we rebuilt Torah Anytime. We've done a lot of different things there, but everybody's in-house. And it's a really, really high quality software development shop. That's the main business. And from there, we utilize all those developers to really build out different products, businesses from there. Along the way, we kind of by mistake, we had extra space in our office. We have beautiful offices in Lakewood. And about 5 years ago, we had all that extra space we weren't using, and we were paying a lot for rent. And friend was like, we should just, sublet it out, rent it out to other people as co-working. And so he tried doing that a little bit. Wasn't that much interest in the beginning, and he was about to shut it down. And I was like, it doesn't make sense. There has to be demand for co-working in Lakewood. It's just impossible. There's so many people here. And so I decided to spend some time in and studied it. And fast forward till today, we have about 200 people in our space. So we have 2 locations. We're expanding to a few other locations. But the key of what happened over there was we really focused on the experience. When you're building software, everything is user experience, right? What's the actual experience that someone's going to walk away with? And so we felt it was the same thing with an office. An office is much more than a desk. It's much more than just coming in and sitting down. What's the overall experience, everything that somebody's getting? And so we have like this, this thing, the saying by us, beyond the desk, right? It's what are you doing beyond the desk? What else can we do? All those different services. So that is what we have over there. We've done that. I have a couple of things I'm involved with. I'm not going to go my history too far back because that goes back to when I was 9 years old. I should have been in Shiva, but I was selling hot peppers. So I'm not going to go that far back. But that's the short of it.
Amazing. The entrepreneurial drive lives within all of us. I resonate a lot with what you said beyond the desk because for interior design, we have this theory called the online to offline experience, and that there is a sense of needing to create that user experience, an intuitive flow within a space. So I think that's really great that you have tapped into that and are providing that space to everyone. Now, tell me how you guys came together. How was this born? What are you guys working on? Tell us a little bit more.
I'll let Ari go ahead.
All right. So we first met at the TribeWorks event. Briefly, I was talking to a future colleague and was on the network as well. And yes, he was talking to him at the time. And he's like, oh, you should meet him. And we spoke very briefly, followed up once or twice. And then when I did an event with Isaac Bardos in the end of December in Lakewood, that was when we really started talking. Workspace was a sponsor there and, took off from there. But if Yeti wants to elaborate a little more on the shared vision or whatnot, I'll let him.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yes, as Ari was saying, I saw the event. We spoke a couple of times at that first event. And then when Ari started advertising for the event that he was putting together, I said, okay, there's the immediate synergy that I saw between us is that he's built this online community, this WhatsApp-based community of, at the moment, I think it's close to 1,000 people, which is phenomenal accomplishment to get everybody there. And I would say chief amongst that is the fact that, I'm not a big group guy. I don't like WhatsApp groups. I don't respond. I can't, it's too many things happening for me. But what I found interesting about this particular group is that it was, I'm going to call it 90% tachlis, right? Almost all of it was like, I need this, who can help me? And people are just helping each other. And I thought that was an amazing thing. And what I see in that is that there's the power of a group, the power of numbers. And, I've obviously thought a lot about co-working. And one of the things I've always appreciated about co-working, what I see as co-working is when you come to rent a desk by us, right? Or the experience by us, it's so much more than that because you're not, if you compare how much someone's paying per square foot in a co-working space versus per square foot in a traditional office, you're paying a premium by us. But in reality, you're getting something so much more because you would never get, the Zoom room that we have. You would never get fresh, ground coffee 4 times a day. You wouldn't get, the cleaning service, and the list goes on, all the different things that you get. You wouldn't get that. And you're only getting that, even though you're paying premium, you're tapping into that, to that group buying power, that group power of everybody there. For us, it makes sense to put together this Class A office. For an individual, that wouldn't make so much sense. And what we started doing by us is we started looking at what are other ways we can leverage that? What are ways that we can leverage the fact we have so many businesses there, and it's this B2B, business, right? You have so many, you can have 2 interior designers, you can have 2 accountants, attorney, everyone there, and people can really work together. And I saw it even when we were doing, placement within the office and figuring out who's wants what desk and things like that. It was always about, we saw that even though there was, technically speaking, competition or different things, people wanted to sit in certain areas. We have an area in the office now that's, I'm going to say, exclusively women, right? About 40 women sitting together. And we didn't make it that way, even though it is Lakewood. We didn't actually go out that way and go do that. And I was actually funny. We had a client in their office in Bitbean a couple of years ago. It's our conference room there is kind of like a fishbowl. It's this glass conference room, right in the middle of the office, and you can see everybody working in the open setting there. And they weren't Jewish. It was it was a corporate client, and they're looking around and they're like, wow, how'd you get all the women? Isn't that sexist? How did you get all the women to sit together? You forced them to that. So we didn't force anybody. They're friendly with each other, and that's just what happened. They moved there and they sat there, and that's just how it goes, right? And that's what happens. And I realized that's like it with everything. People sit in a certain way, and the amount of collaboration that goes on there. I met a guy. I don't know everybody in the space. To be fair, we have an office manager there who runs it. But I found the guy was he was running a massive Amazon business, talking like one of the largest in the country. And he had a desk by us. And I only knew I was with someone else. He goes like, oh, wow, what are you doing here? And he's like, why are you here? He's like, I created so much business from being here. I'm here. It's quiet. My business is running. I'm sitting here. I can focus on what I'm doing, but when I'm not, I can actually see other people and talk to other businesses. He's like, I drive the business from here. And I was like, wow, that's a crazy concept. What else could we do to facilitate more of that? And when I met Ari and we started looking at the event and I was trying to think of ways we could work, I said, wow, if we could take some of these things that these services that we want to offer what we like to call, again, this hasn't been launched yet. So I'm going to give a little sneak preview of this concept here, but this is like what we call business in a box, right? Like services that every business needs. Everyone needs it, right? I mean, everyone's going to use Zoom. Everyone's going to use a phone and an email and a, CRM and different things. So we want to put all these things. We're in the middle of rolling it out for our co-working clients. And we said, imagine we could do this to the Entrepreneur Referral Network, where everybody can start utilizing all of these different services, see what people need and offer them that service. So that was kind of how we met up then. And we started off just looking in terms of us doing a sponsorship. And then we said, let's discuss, see if where we could take to see what else we could do together. And then we have a couple of different things, which I don't know if we want to talk about yet, but we could talk about it more. But there's a couple of really interesting things that we're working on as a collaboration between the two of us. And really, we're creating this new entity, this partnership together.
And just to add one note there, it's, as Yossi puts it, it's all about, yes, we all got to make a living, but at the end of the day, it's all about value first. I've done obviously throughout and Yossi does it, at the workspace I've done on the group, set of partnerships, referrals, countless. I mean, you're talking about not all for myself, but a lot of it where I'm getting people told me we have about a million confirmed. People tell me I'm crazy. It's a lot more, but business that went through. I know somebody told me his business was launched the week he joined, and literally that set him up like even bigger stuff since. But the point of it all is that there's always with the mindset of value first. Like people told me, charge for referrals, charge for it. I said, I'm not looking to be another recruit in a referral sense. Want to do it the right way and bring value first. So that's whatever we set up and things that we'll get into soon. It's all about bring value first.
I'm just going to add one more thing to it. Also, I think it's really cool piece. I sold a company of mine a couple of years ago, and as part of the sale, I had to work with the new company. I had to work for them for a couple of months. It wasn't a Jewish company, and one day this one guy comes over to me and he goes, "Joseph, how do you have a guy for everything? Doesn't make sense. You can have like from here to there. Like, how do you know everyone?" And I was like trying to think about the best way to explain it. And I said, imagine every week your entire life, you went to a non-industry specific 25-hour long networking session without any phones and usually like a l'chaim or two, right? I'm like, that's what happens on Shabbos. You go to shul, you meet everyone, and the guy next to you can be somebody, who's an attorney. He can be a doctor. He could be a billionaire. He could be homeless. He could be whatever. And everybody kind of just comes together. That's what I see in the power of a group, right? People come together. That's obviously you're talking about being a Jew, but it applies to anything. I think you have a group of people that are working together and they're there for another purpose, right? It's a purpose more than just, I'm an attorney and you're an attorney. We're here to help each other, to bring value. How can I provide value? And I think that's one of the big keys, which we'll talk about a little later, that we want to focus on how everybody themselves can provide the value. You'll get the value. It'll come back, right? But if you're focused on providing value to a group, and that's what I think is the most amazing thing about this group in particular. Everybody there is just, no one's getting paid for it. They're just trying to help, just trying to give value.
Well, someone told us on a call last week that we'll get into that, what that call is about, but how it's connected. But somebody told us how literally in a sense, his direct competitor helped him get started. That's not something that you see every day. Not that it doesn't happen, but like your direct someone who you come to him and say, I literally want to do what you're doing. And the guy helped him get off the ground.
Wow. That's incredible. I mean, this is so value driven, right? And it's a model for other businesses and for other things out there, because in a bigger sense, the business world is, competitive driven. It's competition driven. And so this is really creating a model and an example for, other businesses on how you can thrive. We do this with our construction and renovation group, that it's all about giving first and then you receive. Giving value and providing for somebody else and giving them a lift up, so to speak, really does come back to you. But that's not the point. The point is that building the relationships is the thing that's first and foremost. And it does come back, and it feels so good also. All of the things that you're sharing are very, very exciting. And I'm really happy to have you guys on the podcast talking about it. I'm a big believer in that, or upbringing shapes who we are and where we are today. What do you think, Ari, is the biggest thing that people misunderstand about you the most? And how did that shape where you are today?
So my LC, like I said, I was started out before the group doing fractional project management. I was always referring to people, I was always trying to, help someone, but people always saw me as that, like people started actually calling me the master connector or integrator, but even if they knew, like I'll give you an example. I had people on the group who I've had calls with, and it was before I would officially offer like a strategy or consulting kind of way. Before I was focusing more on the implementation, and then people would go and post literally on the group a little while later when they needed that service, and they would forget that I literally do that thing. And I'm not, and I'm the one who obviously founded the group, but even more so how much calls and, we've spoken. And what I see is that people were seeing me as this connector, but, they don't know what goes beyond the group, why I started it. They might have, they know Ari, Dark Horse Integration, but what is that? They didn't really put two together. So that meaning where my skill set really is implementation. So it's, yes.
And that's how you created the group in the first place, right? Because that's who you are, right? As a project manager, coordinating, right? As a designer, I'm also a coordinator and making sure that everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing and where they're supposed to be doing it. So the reason why the group was born and whatever is because you have that background and that insight in how to coordinate and make sure that everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah. And I utilize that skill set, to build on it. It was all done, at least 3/4 of the group was done. Not all for me per se, but a nice portion of it. And literally through direct reach outs to anyone who's looking for a job, to, big CEOs that I was intimidated to even send a DM on LinkedIn. But that was happened to be a good icebreaker, at least to get them to join a group who doesn't want potentially to get more business. And some people said they're just there for me to, to support me. And then slowly I'm seeing they're also benefiting off of it. But the point is that it's really, I utilize my skill. I look at it kind of not separate, but kind of connected by being resourceful, and a community creator is what tied into being able to, take on, projects from start to finish.
Amazing. Amazing. And Yossi, what is the best compliment that you've ever received in your professional journey?
I would say it was, I think I remember where I got it, but it was that I'm able to look at something from many directions. Meaning I don't rest on one piece. I'll try to look at it from every possible
I can attest to
angle. Sometimes to a fault. Sometimes I'm going to try and, go into every single way. It's something that I've always enjoyed doing. I believe I can, you were talking about before about upbringing. I think it has a lot to do with my upbringing and where it was and how it happened and all of that, of trying to figure out ways. But it's something that I've always enjoyed, and I think I do it well. I appreciate that point. I've never heard that until I heard someone else describe me as that. I never appreciated that as much, but it's definitely something that I enjoy doing. I could tell you quickly, it's a longer story. I'll try to make it very quickly, try to make it quick, but there was my first job when I came back from yeshiva in Israel was in Schick's Bakery at Borough Park. And it was actually the Schick's Pesach Bakery was in the beginning. And I started working there seasonal and ended up and I ended up going there to the year-round bakery. And it was like my first foray into the world of business, really, at all. I mean, again, besides from my hot pepper business in 4th grade, which was, tremendously successful at its own rate. But I went in there and it was Pesach was over. And, there was, I forgot the number, but there was a tremendous amount of Pesach product left over after Pesach. And as you may imagine, nobody really wants Pesach product after Pesach, but it was still good cake. It was tons of it and so much product. And we had a good year and everything was good and they're about to throw it out. So, it was, with all the Pesach product left over after Pesach, nobody really wants Pesach product after Pesach. And we were about to throw it out. They said every year, that's what they do. Whatever's left over, they throw it out. And I was like, wait, we were in the middle of trying to get into these supermarkets, A&P and Wallbounds, they're these national chains. And we were trying to get in there. And I said, well, what if, we were in the middle of relabeling everything. I said, what if we relabeled everything as gluten-free cake, right? And we'll try it that way. So we said, all right, what the heck, we'll try. We put it in, and I remember, talking to the buyer. He's like, wow, this is the best gluten-free cake I've had. And he took this huge order, and I was like so proud of myself that I figured that out. And at the end of the day, you could say, hey, this is Pesach, it's over, it's finished, move on, do the next thing. But it's being able to look at every opportunity, every situation, saying, wait, where else, is there anything else here? Again, you don't want to go overboard with it, but there's a fine balance with everything else, but it's the opportunity of figuring out a way in. Don't always take, you don't take no for an answer. I think that can come from, my being someone who didn't enjoy school so much, who didn't really enjoy being in class that much, and trying to figure out a way to go do that. So that's really where it is on my side.
I think we said before the show that entrepreneurs are often born from those from the experience of not liking school very much, and trying to find another way around the work, or just being very passionate and not having the patience for anything else.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. It's exactly that. I mentioned a few times before about the hot pepper business in fourth grade. I met somebody who was in school with me in elementary school. I haven't seen him in like 30 years. And I met him a couple years ago in the 5 towns, and he's like, oh, Baumann, I have a bone to pick with you. I said, what did I do to you? I haven't seen you in 30 years. He said, apparently I used to sell hot peppers, 1 for 10, 2 for 25. I said, great. Sounds good. I don't remember that, but sounds good. But it's been a while, but it was good. I've always been doing that. That's always been my thing. I've always enjoyed it. I've always enjoyed business. So trying to figure something out in a way that, that would make, that has that transactional nature that everybody can win. That's always been my thing.
Amazing. So aside for the hot pepper business, when did you decide that you wanted to get started in what you're doing now, in the many hats that you wear?
So after Schick's Bakery, which was primarily sales based, I said, hey, if I enjoy selling to people, I would probably enjoy marketing, which, I viewed as selling to the masses. And, as I mentioned earlier, I didn't like school so much. I wasn't like I had a degree in something and had to pick something. And I joined a friend of mine in opening a advertising agency. It was right when the world of online advertising was coming around. So it was like 2004, 2005, 2006. And we got in right in the beginning. We were doing a tremendous amount of lead gen. We were producing it for this one business. Because we were an advertising agency, we were doing it for a couple of different businesses. And that was when the first time I started wearing these multiple hats and trying to put myself in each business. And then I just started getting more involved in different ones. And I ended up really enjoying that mix between, we'll call that marketing side. I view everything through the lens of marketing. I believe everything you do is really marketing. As you operate your business, you're marketing yourself. If you operate it in a, customer service friendly way versus a obnoxious way, that becomes your marketing. So it was always my marketing, that marketing background has always been what it is. But now from running a business and being able to figure out what people want, what consumers want, how to package it the right way that people are interested in it. Obviously, you need a sound business model and you need everything else that's there, but to be able to do something in a way where it's packaged correctly, kind of like we talked about before about the co-working business, before we packaged it correctly, before we thought about the user experience, it was very different. So the first time I really thought about creating these multiple business, wearing this thing of being this, consultative in nature to different businesses, figuring out each business. I don't run all businesses. I don't run really any one business. I'm able to, have my piece involved. Well, I can make my, I can give my input on each one and try to drive it into a better place. But it came from my time being in an ad agency of being involved in multiple businesses.
Amazing. And can you guys tell me what was the specific moment, like the aha for this new venture that you guys are doing together?
I'll let Ari elaborate on that.
Well, it's interesting because when we first connected, yes, he found, he liked the idea, like he said earlier about the group. He didn't I don't think he joined right away. I think it was closer to the event. Right before, once he signed as a sponsor, we were talking about potential collaboration, and I was all along looking for a partner, and I didn't initially think the group as being a venture of its own. But I realized that after connecting people, not that I want to just be the referral guy, end of the day, it's morphed into something. And, sometimes you aim for one thing, God sends you another way, and it might not be the way you envisioned it, but you got to grab the opportunity. And we spoke potential collaborations of different sorts. And then part of that, which we can get into soon, is the putting it onto a platform and building to something so much more. And even that was more as a kind of collaboration versus a partnership. And then we said we'll start with an event to see, like a test drive, kind of how the synergy is. And then it, just kept on building from there, snowball in a good way.
Amazing.
So
amazing. Can you tell us a little bit more? Can you give us some more hints about how it's evolved?
Pick up on that for a minute. So there's a few different things, and one of the things, again, the downsides of working with somebody like me is that I'm going to think of different opportunities and different things. The hopefully disciplined part of me says, all right, let's pare that down and focus on the first,
I'll throw one compliment there. When Yossi focused on anything, he's fully focused. Like he's told, I don't know if I should say this, but he's told, ignored partners from other, day-to-day businesses when he's like focusing at one, and it works, whatever he's involved with, he's all in.
Yes, that's
amazing.
Something that I do. It is something that I do focus on, is that I've learned to, when you are doing one thing, is just do that one thing. I've actually learned it from a old chavrusa of mine, where I would have my phone out the whole time, and he'd be like, if you want to be on your phone, be on your phone, but just then don't learn. If you're going to learn, then learn. And
something good from yeshiva.
Look, it wasn't yeshiva, it was his laughters. But the point was, I was like, okay, it works like that with anything. Whatever you do it well, right? Do it really well. And it's actually, that's what my father told me in high school. I have a 96 average in high school. To be fair, I only took one regent in high school also, but I took my one regent, I got my 96, and I was good. But my father always told me, he's like, what do you mean you're not in school? My father worked for S&P for 50 years. My father was like the polar opposite of me in that sense. He had one job, did one thing, did it when he was 17 till 67, never missed it. I mean, he was like, the most real, one dimensional thing. He did it really well. And when I said I wasn't in school and I wasn't going to do this, he's like, well, what are you going to do? So I said, I don't know. Maybe I'll do that. He's like, well, whatever you do, just do it well, right? Find something and do it really well. Don't do it halfway. So that's really what I do focus on. But in terms of what these projects are, so we have a couple of different things that we want to work on, but in terms of what we're prioritizing and rolling out first. So the first thing is this event. This event, I wouldn't call this a separate piece. It's part of this, it's part of the bigger picture. Because the event is a really, really cool, not just cool event, a really awesome event. I'll tell you more about that in a minute. That's that. But what we're doing is, we're basically, there's a tremendous need, in the world. And you see this so much on the group, where there's this relationship between B2B, right? One business is looking for something from another business, and they say, okay, great. I need a new IT company, right? Or I need, or my computer's not working, right? And they start off. So they can either be on the side where they say, I know I have a problem. I don't really know what my problem is, but I know I have a problem. So, hey, can anyone help me with my problem that my computer's not working? Then the other extreme is, I know I have a problem. My problem is I need an IT company. I'm just looking that's my solution. Which IT company should I go use? Now, if whatever industry this person is, they're clearly not an IT company, right? So they're now looking in a different industry, trying to figure out which vendor to use, and they have no idea who, because they're not experienced in IT. They're not in whatever vertical we're talking about. And they're going out there trying to research, trying to do these things. And that's why they come to the referral group and say, hey, anyone know good IT companies? Well, I'm in healthcare. I'm in real estate. What do you do? And they end up doing all this research. And they're not necessarily always, suited to go do the research, depending on who they are and what size company and what their specialties are. They're not always very there, and they may not know the right people. So even if they were to get the right referrals, how do you decide? You have 4 referrals. Well, which one do I choose? Right. And then, I know this guy's a great IT company. Yeah, but
people told me they got like
specializes. 10. Right. And then you're going to get it. And you're like, oh, this is a great IT company, but he specializes in healthcare. I do real estate. That doesn't it seems like it may translate, but it doesn't necessarily. So that piece right over there is the problem that we're solving. And, in general, any business in my mind, any business model has to be solving a specific problem. That's the problem that it's solving. Our solution is going to be giving businesses the ability to get an RFP, a request for proposal, for the average business. Any size business will be able to get it. And so if you're looking for, an interior decorator, right? You're looking for somebody to go there. There's lots of them there, and you could decide who it is. It's not just about, hey, I want the business. Maybe you don't want the business. Maybe it's the wrong client for you. Maybe someone's building a commercial building, you do residential. Maybe you do residential, they do commercial. Maybe whatever the situation is. So what we do is we first meet with the client, right? Ari and I meet with them together. We understand what their problem is first, right? It's consultative in nature as well, right? We try to understand what their issue is, kind of like a therapist, right? A business therapist. Let me hear what the problem is. Let's talk it out. We then take that, put it out in a clear project summary, right? A really, really clear project summary. And we then take that, and we don't just give the referrals. Referrals you can get in many places. Based on that project summary, we have a really clear idea of what you're looking for. We'll say these 3 companies, these 3 vendors, these 3 people can really help you. And we're going to send this RFP to them so that they can reach out to you and do it. So instead of you running around looking for different vendors, you have them reaching out to you, sending you a proposal of, hey, I want to work with you. And I already know that they're a good match for you. That's the major project that we're working on. There's lots of variations of it. It's starting off, like I said, consultative in nature in the beginning with an RFP that we're send out, with the ultimate goal of, building on my software background to be able to put out that, to having, automated and as many using tech and as many things as we can over there to improve that. And in terms of the, Ari and Ari's specialties in the project management, my goal is to understand that, like I said, that consultation aspect of it, of listening to what their business is. We do both parts together, but it's in the strengths. We are kind of understanding that initial call, and then Ari will use his referral aspect, all the companies that he has contacts with, as well as his project management, to make sure that they get it, they reach out to them, they get what they need. Ultimately, we want the same thing. Their customer experience should be is that instead of a business going out there and reaching out to multiple places and not knowing who to turn to and their head on a swivel, they have the right people, the right vendors reaching out to them.
Amazing. So I think you need to market as business therapy. Because when you're in business, you definitely need therapy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. I had a guy who worked for me about 15 years ago. He's this Italian guy, and he just came in complaining about something on the floor, and someone was doing something or whatever it is. And afterwards, he's like, you should be a business therapist. And I was like, okay, maybe. I don't know if that's a thing, but maybe we can make it a thing.
And fast forward, here it is.
Yeah.
Little did you know he was a fortune teller.
That's it.
Yeah.
Gotta say
I had also the last
thanks to George.
Yeah, I didn't seem, I don't call myself a business consultant. We don't even want to use that term, really. Nothing against it, but we don't, it's not how we view it. And I've had people tell me it changed, not just in the dollar amount, but the whole trajectory by getting on a call where it didn't necessarily lead to a sale. Cause, I was learning how to, when you're starting out, you're learning how to sell yourself as well. But in the process, many people said, getting so much clarity, like, you should start charging for this. So I said, I like the implementation side as well. Here's a way where we can offer both. And it's also going to be valuable for the people in the network, because it's not like they're going to go in, they start on a project and there's a miscommunication or misunderstanding. Anyone that they're getting business with is something that, it's a lot more, a high percentage that it's going to be successful, and everyone's going to walk away happy.
Right. Especially when they feel like you're not in it just for the money. And again, being value focused and people focused first and foremost. You're building that relationship, that trust, the know-like trust factor. And then once you have that, that is what propels everything forward, because you don't, in a traditional sense of the way people run businesses and whatever, you don't have that relationship. So you're always kind of in the business world thinking, looking over your shoulder, are they going to cheat me, or how is this relationship going to work out? But if you have people like what you're trying to do, that have your back and that have already vetted people coming in and know who to match you with, that is gold. That is huge value for them, that they can rest assured, sleep better at night, knowing that they have you guys, that you have their back. Can you share some initial challenges that you faced, or that you that could come up in putting this together, and how would you overcome it?
I'll let Ari answer. Go ahead.
No, you were going to say something?
I mean, I'll just give you my own my take on it. My take on it is there's challenges in every single thing that we do. So whatever we didn't experience yet, we will. Where's the shout? God willing. But there's challenges of when something makes a lot of sense to you, or even the people that you run something past and makes sense, everything is good, and then you do it and you find out it's not like that. People really want it this way. My biggest, I had an old, my Rosh Yeshiva in Israel used to have a thing whenever we would start, debating something, he would say, "Are you here to teach or are you here to learn?" Right. And it's something that I look for in anyone who I work with is, are they willing to learn? I try and go into any conversation, any situation, you have to be ready to learn, and you can learn from people, you can learn from experiences or anything else. So there'll be specific challenges that will come up. There could be challenges that, people say, I don't find enough value in that. We may not price it correctly. They may say, maybe you're, I don't get enough value for it. There's all these different potential issues that are there. The challenge is the solution to any of those things is always going to be listen to what they're saying, listen to what the issues will be. If there's demand, you have to understand what the demand is. If people are saying that if you see there's an issue with them, try to really, really, really put your ear to the floor to listen and understand where that issue is from. Almost always there's a way to solve that, right? And if it's not the front door, it's the back door, but there's a way to figure out how to go do that. But you got to really first listen to what the actual, issues are that are coming up.
Right. Absolutely. And that's marketing, isn't it? Right. Marketing is if you're running ads, and you're putting them out there and there's crickets, then you know that you need to adapt and you need to change.
Yep.
Then you have to pivot.
Yep.
Yeah,
that's A/B testing, right? It's A/B testing. That's where we do, when we're doing lead gen, it was like, never get too emotionally connected to anything you're putting out. It's just got to work, right? Like if it works, then great. And if not, I think I forgot where it was, in some big company, there was a guy who they hired to run a campaign or whatever it is. And he was all excited and he put like 2 months into preparing the campaign, and he comes to prepare the whole campaign to the board, and he presents the whole thing and they say, "Nope, we're scratching it. We're canceling it." And he was like, "What? I just put 2 months in, whatever it is." And they said, "No, we're canceling." He said, "Okay." Right. And afterwards, the guy explained to him, the one who hired him, he says, "We do this to everybody who comes on because we want to make sure that you understand that what you're doing here is not your own personal project. It's a project for the company. And if we decide as a board, meaning as the collective group decide it's not good for the company, you have to be able to put your personal, your emotional, your feelings aside and just look at whatever works." You could put so much effort into a product, into a marketing campaign, to whatever it is. If there's crickets and it's not working, just pivot. Just, I got to be ready to roll. That's the idea. Sorry, Ari, go ahead.
No, I saw, it reminds me of a line I saw in a post on LinkedIn a little while ago where somebody said, sometimes it's not, and it may not even be the wrong product, it's just the wrong audience or the wrong time. So like the way I was pitching myself in the last year, I always try to be, value first, and what I was offering, not just to be, hey, come to me to do your social better because whatever I was trying to do, where there was a need, but it still took time to learn. And sales, I did inside sales in my last job, or previous job, actually, I onboarded a $1 billion company that, the boss had met at a trade show, and, I would do the follow-up. You would go all these different, large trade shows, and they were haggling on the price or something. The guy kept, staying in touch, and I realized he's obviously interested, or he would have just said, "Okay, I can't do it." And it happened to be the day I left. And I would just check it like every 2 weeks, every month, by email, a call. The day I left, they sent in a huge PO. So like, you never know. It might be the timing. It might be the way you're going about selling it, but listening to feedback and listening, it never hurts to listen.
Right. And as Yossi said earlier, just keep on at it. Just keep going.
Yeah, even with us, the different ideas that we spoke, like, from both of us, Yossi was always like, let's see what the feedback is and, what makes sense, and look at the bigger picture, not just, even if you think it makes sense, but is it really because you want to do it? because it's something, you want to do versus, you want to put up this ultimate event, or you want to do whatever, this new feature in the group, or is it something that makes sense? And, if it's in line, then sure. It's like the sponsorships back in December when I started, I was skeptical. Should I try it? How should I do it? I was getting a lot of requests for people to be able to promote themselves more than what's allowed on the group. But I wanted to keep the integrity and not just, take a few dollars to be able to allow people to do a free for all, because then it kills the value of the group. So I came up with one structure that I worked together with my business coach. And then when I teamed up with Yossi, we recently started, as you saw, rolled out the daily, but in a more valuable kind of way, where it's still kept limited. It's not just, 10 a day or whatever, where it's just another ad.
Amazing. Will you guys also be offering, like Yossi, you mentioned before that every business should have a targeted niche, correct? Mm-hmm. So will you also, when businesses come to you, will you also help them focus on what that is, what their strengths are? Is that going to be part of the business therapy?
Absolutely. Yeah, I love
yes,
that.
She's great at that
title. I like it. It's an enjoyable thing now. When I just become a business therapist, I can add a few letters after my name finally, So it's something that like I was saying before, I try, and anytime we focus on something, again, as a business therapist, you have to be honest with yourself, right? You gotta know what it is that you're actually doing. So when somebody comes, talk about Bitbean for a minute, right? When someone comes to build software, the first thing we always do discovery. And in discovery, it's there. Everyone right away starts going to software. I want my software to do this. I said, whoa, 1 second. Software is, you're automating something. It's automation. What are you automating? What is your process, right? You can't just go straight to automation. I got to know what your business is. And if you have a really bad process and then you automate it, you just created really bad software, right? Not a good thing. So when someone's coming to us and says, hey, I want to go get this thing, if you're coming to us with no idea what the ask is, part of what we do is we're going to try to help you figure it out. And, talking about being honest with yourself, I think one of the strongest things you could do is know that you don't know. I mean, I think it's like this in, religion also, right? But it's in business, you got to know what you know what you don't know. Be honest with yourself about that. So if someone's coming to me about something, or someone's talking to me, somebody's talking to Ari, somebody's talking to anyone, and they're going to ask them something, if you know about it, by all means, share. If you don't, either don't share or connect them with somebody who could. And the good news is we have such a wide network that if someone's going to come to us about, nuclear science, I can't actually, we were just talking about this, we actually did, but we that shows you the diversity, I would say, of the group. But yeah. If someone's coming to us, I can't really help you on nuclear science. I didn't finish elementary school even, so I certainly can't talk to you about nuclear science. So it's going to be about, the goal is, okay, you're coming to us. What I know is that I don't know. So I'm going to bring in somebody who does, I'm going to bring in a nuclear scientist.
And actually know someone in that space.
There you go. Right. I'm going to bring in a nuclear scientist to help you on that part. And that's our job. Our job is to fill in the pieces that you don't have. We're, again, therapy, be there, talk about it, understand where it is. And then we could say, okay, as somebody who's not in your shoes, who's not living through it, who's not nogea v'davar, someone who's not connected, let me go out there and bring those pieces in, and I'll sit down with Ari and say, Ari, let's see if we can get somebody who's strong on this. Let's get this, put them in, and they're basically operating as a full team, right? It's like what we call it. It's almost like fractional services, but in everything you do, right? It's fractional this, fractional that. Whatever you don't have, we'll help you highlight those things that are missing, and we'll help you and we'll also help you fill them in. That's the idea.
That's amazing. It sounds like there's a lot of collaboration and a lot of people skills that are involved. I'm sure, Ari, you're pulling a lot of that from your background in project management, and you, Yossi, with all your experience with various companies and clients, different diverse clients. How do you build positive relationships within teams, and what strategies do you use to address their needs? So as you're growing this, I'm sure you're going to have team members and you're going to duplicate yourselves. So how can you, on a larger scale, what do you recommend in terms of building those positive relationships?
But from my point of view, and I can say, if there's anything different, but obviously having somewhat of a vision before, because, I've seen a lot of people actually, whether discussing this at events or posting about it, like, should you hire quickly? And sometimes companies hire, they don't know or bring on partners, what they're looking for. Like I spoke to different people in the past, and it just somewhat, there were people I almost partnered up with, and it was synergy, but it just, to me, it had to be done right. And I said, I'm going to keep trucking on my end, but I have my vision and I'm open to adapting, which is it's something I would also want in team players, whether it's a partner and people that we're hiring, but having that clear vision first. So you're not just like starting at something, then you feel like, you didn't know what you want and you're just end up not really being on the same page. So having that clear vision, if it's someone under you, not a partner, then having, making clear this is what we're doing, kind of like what, you were saying before about with people in a company that, they're there to serve the company, but you want to be open to be able to hear them though. And, you have the different processes, whatever it may be, to get those projects done. I guess you want to add?
I think I'll put it this way, my favorite book of all time, Jewish or not, is Koheles, right? And he says lots of amazing things in there. I know a lot of people like to think it's depressing. It's really not depressing. It's an amazing, amazing thing. But one of the things he says in there is that nothing is as good as it seems and nothing is as bad as it seems, right? And it's a perspective of when you're building something out, you're building out pieces and you want to replicate yourself. You want to have process. You want to have all these things. Most of the time that there are issues is because of miscommunication, right? And the first step of like understanding of how to fix that the miscommunication is understanding that everyone relax, take a step back. It's not the end of the world. And when you get everything is working really well, it's not as good as it seems either, because it can fail tomorrow. Understand, having that tempered, nature of understanding. But when you have that attitude, it's infectious and it goes through everybody else on the team. And so keeping everybody building out that team is building it slowly, building it into bite-sized pieces. I like to compare this also. My kids, I asked them to clean their room and there's like 4.5 billion Lego pieces or parent landmines for walking through the room. And I say, you got to clean the room. And they're like, oh, but there's so many pieces. I can't clean up the whole room, right? And so there's like different ways to operate, right? You can either go and say, okay, go clean up just the Lego pieces, but not the blocks. And they're like, oh, that's more manageable. That's like something I could do. Or you just clean up that corner. Don't worry about the other 3 corners, right? But if everybody's just focused on their piece, then it becomes so much more doable. So when you have a project that has lots of moving pieces, and when you want to be able to, like you said, replicate, make something scalable, break it down into as many pieces. And that's one of the things I know Ari's really good at, is breaking it into pieces. I happen to enjoy that a lot as well. I think it's one of the things we connected over was looking at the big picture. You could dream big, right? Then pare down to what's really, realistic, and then break that down into pieces. Step 1, step 2, step 3, really, a really good Gantt chart to figure out what has to happen. And then everybody just zoom in, focus. So you just do you, borrowing a sports reference, Bill Belichick is, everyone is one of his big his famous quotes is, just do your job, right? If the quarterback is worried about the receiver and the receiver is worried about the quarterback, who's worried about you just have to focus on doing your job. A good leader and a good team is going to come from when everybody knows their job, everybody's able to focus on their job. And the only way you're able to focus on your job is if you're trusting that everybody else is going to do their job. So if you're successful, that I would say is the best recipe for building out that team.
To me, one point, and it ties in really to everything, is by leading by example. Like as I said, just do your job. To me, that's, you lead by example. It doesn't mean you micromanage or you do everything, but being a good leader is leading by example. Sometimes you do need to be more hands-on, sometimes less, but that rule is something that always, stuck with me.
That's the key to a successful project, venture, business? having people on your team that you're leading by example and communicating properly? Is that the main thing that will make or break something?
Together with communication, and from my point of view.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with that. I think having clear communication is important, but I would say before the communication is having a clear understanding of what the project is, right, and what's expected of everybody. Very often, people will as far as and I happens to me all the time, where I'm like, yeah, they understand it, they got it, right? I spoke to them, they understand, and they have no idea what you're talking about. And you, as far as you're concerned, they did. Having that clear, having project management, meaning in terms of whether it's software, whether it's something that could be there. And I used to follow, I forgot where I saw this the first time. I used to follow when I had a large team working under me, as opposed to having leaders. Right now, I primarily have leaders of the different businesses. Each one kind of has its own, CEO, so to speak. When I had a team working under me, we would have a daily huddle, which is just a literally 5-minute quick what everybody's doing. We would have a weekly update, and we would have a monthly overview. And, it keeps everybody, the weekly huddle, the daily huddle, I actually learned, my wife is a nurse in the ER for the last 15 years. And that's how they start up every shift, is a huddle. What everyone's doing, what's happening, what are you at, and they get a handoff from the old shift. This one's handing it, right? And it all happens during that huddle. So that was where I got that from. And then the weekly thing is just everyone giving their updates of what they did this week and what they plan on hoping, what they're doing for next week. It's not consultative and it's not conversation based. It's just the update. This is what I'm doing. This is what I plan on doing next week. The leader in that time can go and work with everybody individually, but you have it that way. And the monthly is where we have conversation, what we learned through the last month, and then we can all share. And that's much larger, longer term meeting. So, right, if you could have the project really clear before, and for starters, what it is, it's down on paper. As Ari can attest, I put everything on paper at some point. It starts off in my brain. It starts off in your brain. It starts in someone's brain.
Even before each of our calls, there's always like at least some sort of agenda. It doesn't mean we won't discuss other topics or points, but it's always one main agenda.
Yeah. And it's got to be there. It's got to be on paper. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
How do you recommend keeping track of all of that? Do you have like a one place, a CRM system, anywhere that you like to keep all your notes and keep track of everything that evolves?
I'll answer that question first, or you can answer your side. Yeah. What I find as, I'm going to say somewhat challenging, is that the different businesses that I'm involved in all use different things, right? And the reason why they all use different things is because I'm very into not, talking about, coming to teach versus to learn. If I'm not the one who's doing it every day, someone is actively doing it. Like I said, I don't lead the company. I lead the company in a consultative way, where strategy and what we're going to do and where we're going to go, but I'm not day to day. And so if I'm not operationally involved there, if someone else is used to using a system that they're comfortable with, I don't want them to go use my system, right? So I can tell you some things that I like, but that's not what they're going to like. So I've become very system agnostic on that side. I'll let everybody do whatever they do. Because of that, I have a few systems that I use. What is actually pretty funny is a strange thing. I don't know that anyone else does it. Maybe people do. I keep everything in Gmail, right? And I don't mean Google Docs. I mean Gmail. I compose an email and I write it down and I put it on the top of my subject line with it. It's just something that I did like when I was in the beginning, before there was a lot of software projects that a lot of project management systems that came out. Now there's a whole bunch of them, but I could go back on my email from 2006 and look at stuff that I've been saving that way, right? It's not effective. I mean, it's effective. It's effective for me. It's not effective for a team, right? But it's effective for me in that way that I can know what it is. And then I'll take that and then put that into whatever system we're going to be using as a team, right? And that's just my way. It's like my growing up, my father used to keep his index cards with a pen in his shirt pocket. That was like a thing in the 80s, right? Like everybody had. Now it's on your phone or whatever. That's my version of that. From there, I'll figure out what actually has to go into a system. But I will say this much. You need a system. Whenever you do need a system, I forgot who the author is. I should know because I read a lot of his books, or I used to read a lot of his books, should say. It's called Getting Things Done. And one of his big things is it's got to come out of your brain into a system. Because if it's not in some system, it goes all over. And I'll tell you this much. I tell this to my wife all the time. I'll tell it to anyone who's willing to listen. you get overwhelmed when you don't have it written down, right? And just psychologically, if you have 5 things you need to go do, but it's not written down, when your brain, subconsciously, when your brain gets up to number 5, thinking about what you have to do, you start over 1, and you get to 5, your brain is now thinking about number 1 as number 6, and number 2 is number 7. And all of a sudden, it's really only had 5 things to go do. In your brain, it's this never ending cycle. I have so many things I got to go do, right? And so by just breaking it down and saying, let me put it on paper into high level pieces. Again, like we said before, we can break it down into further bite-sized pieces, but break it down. So whatever system you use, everyone has their system there. There's Monday and there's Trello and there's, now it's called To Do. It used to be called something else. Like Notion. I use Notion a lot. Asana. Everyone has
what I use.
They each have their own piece, right? Everyone has there's a reason why each person is. So really it's about whatever I think the team is using. We're working on a project now for something else. And I sent someone, the person who was starting to work, and I sent them what I was going to use. I said, oh, I don't know that platform. Can you walk me through it? I said, no, I cannot walk you through it. I want you to walk me through your system. I'll follow yours. I don't follow mine. It doesn't help me if you're going to have to relearn a new system. If your strength is that's what you're doing, you do yours. That's my personal take on it.
Wow. I love that. I think that it's so cool how you guys think, and it's less about the idea, the thing that you guys are doing, but the collective success of how you do it. Coming from a project strategy background, coming from a business therapy background. And I think that is what is going to make this super successful. Can you share with us a little bit more about what's coming up for this collaboration?
Sure. Yes. You want to talk about the platform, Lo?
Yeah. So the platform itself, like we said, there's something we're going to roll out. We'll call phase 1 of that platform in the next couple of weeks. The platform is going to start off as a directory, as a simple business directory.
And not to replace the group.
Correct. As an addition. Just as another point before, we were talking about user experience, talking about what, and actually just talking about whatever works, right? Like I'm into whatever works. If that's what's going to work for you and that'll make you, successful, then you do that. I don't like changing something that's really working. The WhatsApp group works. People like WhatsApp. There's a reason why there are billions of people on WhatsApp. So people are always talking about a group. How am I going to get the group? We're going to get the group offline or not off WhatsApp and onto something else. No,
I've had people tell me, go to Slack, go to Google.
And they're all great. Each one has their own thing. WhatsApp works. There's a reason why everybody's using it. Let them stay. What you could do is add layers on top of that for the pieces that WhatsApp is missing, where it's lacking, give them those tools in other ways, but don't do away with it. And there's a lot of different things that we have that we're working on there, but especially with today's day and age, with all the automation and AI and so many different pieces that you could do, with the amount of integrations that exist, you can work off of still using the WhatsApp group as the group concept, but also being able to use these tools. So the site, the platform that we're building, phase 1 is a simple directory. It's a directory of everybody in the group, their name, what they do, and a way to reach out to them. And everybody will be able to go, each business owner or entrepreneur or
the directory. You don't even have to go to their website.
Right. You can just go into your own thing. It says exactly what it is that, that they're, what services they can add, they can do less, but everybody starts off at a default amount of information, and you can add an entire page, almost like your own profile page, right? Not almost, it's a profile page. So that's
more than that, the landing page.
It's a landing page that operates as your, exactly.
And we're not charging for that.
Correct. It's going to be completely free. Everybody will have their own thing there and be able to do that. The follow up to that, meaning the phase 2 of that, is going to be that we're going to be working on various ways of sending them leads, right? And it could be organic leads, it could be paid leads, it could be whatever it is. But what we need is everybody to be on that platform. Once they're on that platform, we'll be able to send them leads. So as an example, right now, the amount of data that exists in the group and every day continues to pile up is eye-popping, right? And it's not just eye-popping in terms of volume. We have more accurate information than Google does, right? If I'm looking for an accountant, Google will tell me 40 million different accountants that I'll never know if they're good, bad, or if they're a bot. I don't know who they are. On the group, you'll have real information. And so we're right now collecting that data and putting it into a, we'll call it machine learning, but it's going to be a tool where people are able to go and say, hey, I need an accountant. right? And it could be in the form of WhatsApp. They'll have a phone. And this is going to be the commercial aspect of it. A phone number that they can reach out to and say, it'll be like their assistant. Say, hey, I need a good accountant. And that accountant will first look at all the previous data and say, hey, listen, these 4 accountants, they were recommended 5 times, right? 6 different people. These are the people who recommended them. Reach out to them and you have that on your fingertips right away. So that's step 1. And then even more than that, it will give them the ability to actually take that request that they have and actually send it out to people. And people will say, to do that kind of the old school forums, we're bringing it into the modern day, world of technology. It's something that I believe that as it goes further, we're focusing on the B2B angle, but as it goes on, there is a insane amount of potential for businesses to grow off of that and it's going to be real organic growth. You're not getting, Google right now to get on the ranking in Google, and I'm not competing with Google, right? But, it's not recommended, but
don't anger them. Don't anger them.
If we have,
I don't want to say Google gods, but have deal.
I don't want to have.
Yeah.
If we have that conversation again, that they're concerned about us, that we're doing something right, we should continue doing what we're doing.
Yes.
But until then, what the idea is that when you go to Google, it's a algorithm that's an unknown algorithm, and everyone's guessing it. The whole industry of SEO, right? How do I optimize my site? You know what? The trick to optimize your site here, get real people to recommend you, right?
Yeah.
You can't get more accurate than that. It's the world of, and it's not
it's very complicated.
It's not even about reviews, right? Because reviews, I happen to have I have personal beef with reviews because people will have a bad experience in every one, and someone finds one bad review. I don't need everyone to talk about, the whole experience and every nuance of it. I just want to, if I'm looking for someone right now for this thing, how many people recommend it? It's about the power of numbers. If there's multiple people say this person's good, there's a good chance they're good. You want to know one person might not like them?
Sponsorship.
Sure.
I see that with we have different daily sponsorships, right? Some people did a package of a few, and somebody mentioned to us that someone who's in marketing and, they have their own network, and they're like, well, I see an ad, I just go right by it. And I was like, well, people got leads off it, but what's even more interesting to see is that regardless if they got leads or business directly, it's hard to really judge from one ad, but it does help them stand out. I tell people you got to really be interactive and give as well to others, because then you're going to stay top mind. But what's interesting is that most, if not all of the sponsors so far, as soon as I post within a few hours, there's always people that I start recommending them. Like, oh yeah, I work with them. And not just like, he's a good guy. No, I've actually spoken to him. I work with them.
Right.
So, and it makes
real
that
life
ad more organic. It's an ad, but it makes it like a real value. It's not just, oh, they paid a few dollars to be up there. Look, people are, giving, not just like a live review, basically.
Right. And the focus of everything we're doing here is to be real and genuine, right? Not fake. And, advertising, I was just touching on this. Someone said, recently, I was referencing that, when someone has a paid ad, it seems, you're paying to be there. Yes, you can pay. There's nothing wrong with driving business. That's what we're all here for. We're trying to create business. We're trying to do that. But if it's done in a healthy way, where it's not like when you ask us for a recommendation for an accountant and we're only telling you this accountant because no, you're allowed to put up, there's nothing wrong with advertising. Advertise, also get recommendations. There's a point of advertising is being front and center, right? And there's different kinds of advertising. When you put up a billboard up versus advertising on Google, you're searching for a specific thing, it'll come up. It's the act of returning the result of returning the result of what you're looking for versus just hanging up a sign. What we're talking about here is hanging up a sign you want to go tell people, but in all the products that we're building, it's meant to be real, organic, genuine. Everything we're building is like that. In our referrals, when we're building an RFP for people, we want to send to the right people to walk away. At the end of the day, talk about everything is marketing. If people walk away unhappy, well, then we're doing a really bad job marketing us as a product, us as a group, we want people to walk away and say, wow, that was a great experience, right? I got the vendor I needed. That was a great experience. I looked for someone. I got 4 real recommendations. People came up, whatever it is. And I can filter. I only want people who have 3 recommendations and higher, 5 recommendations and higher, whatever it is.
Well, that was how we came up with that, the RFP service, or should we call business therapy, was because people don't always know where to start from. So you want that higher level, more premium service. That's where, we come in more directly.
Yeah.
I love that it's kind of like an alternative to reviews because it's like it's a parallel system to it. Whereas the KPI would be, you know, how many reviews have you had before or whatever, or how many reviews can we
Well,
get?
there will be reviews, to be honest, but it's not going to be just so reliant on those reviews.
Correct. It's not the focus. Like, you know, if you could replace reviews on Google with anything, it would be this. Like, this is reviews on steroids, because it's not just about the individual person, but it's multiple people recommending that. It's a complete different system.
It's the concept of the group, right? Of going out to the masses as peer to peer. You know, it's a mix. You know, it's a mix between. I actually just saw someone just posted recently when Facebook first came out with likes. I actually remember the day they came out with it. Everyone was like, "Likes? What are you talking about? Thumbs up?" Or what were you? But it's a mix between a review, you know, like, and a referrals, right? It's, you want to know how many referrals are there. The downside of reviews, as I'm sure, is people, you're going to deal with an angry customer. In any business, you will have someone who's unhappy. Now, if you've been there and you've operated a business, you know that. And so if you see another business that has someone says, "Oh, I was unhappy with them, they're whatever," you'll take that with a grain of salt. But also, we're all human, and we see something there, and it automatically will affect us, and that can destroy business. Why do that? Because someone had a normal interaction, but other side wasn't. That happens. People are difficult sometimes. But when you have something as how many referrals did they get, that, I like to say oil flows to the top, right? The chances that this really bad business is going to have everybody referring them, or a really good business that no one refers, just not probable. Possible, but not probable.
Right.
And that's really the focus of everything we're doing. And again, I don't know when we'll talk about it, but there's an event that we're putting up actually in the 5 towns in a couple of weeks that is focused on this. It's real, just being genuine, being real, being honest, without fluff, without, the other stuff, just real value. And
we were even thinking having the title on the flyer. We didn't do it, but literally, what was it? Hate networking events.
Right.
Then this is for you.
Yeah. It's a whole world of, it's a whole train of thought of, talking about understanding what people want. The whole concept of networking events is a little bit difficult, but whatever. We'll tackle that when we talk about the event, unless you're ready for it.
Tell me. Yes. I want to jump into that. I want you to tell me what's happening, when it's happening, where it's happening. Give us all the details.
Awesome. So it's going to be March 5th, God willing, in BTI in Inwood. It is going to be hosted by Ellie Langer of Kosher Money. And we've been planning there's some things that we can't give away just yet, but it's going to be the most unique networking event you've ever been to, that I can guarantee you. And that's regardless of how many you've been to or not. But, just to borrow what Ari was saying about hating networking events, there's, Simon Sinek, right, has this thing about products, right? And he says, when you roll out a product, there's going to be the early adopters, there's going to be the late bloomers. He has this whole thing, right? What your market share is the people in the middle, right? So I feel like there are people out there who love networking events. They go to networking event. Now they could be because they're a vendor. It could be they just like schmoozing. It could be like that's how they operate. They make money off it. There's nothing wrong with that. But there's that group of people. There's another group of people, I may or may not fall into this category, who despise networking events. And I go to them. And I don't mind talking. If you can't tell, I don't mind talking. I like talking, or sometimes too much. But right, there's a difference between being practical in what you're doing, right? Being intentional in what you're doing. And I feel like when you walk into a networking event, right? Let's put it this way: when you build a website, the most important rule in building a website is when someone comes on that homepage, guide them to where you want them to go next. Don't leave it open-ended. But you'll go to a website and you can hear and a button there, and then you're like, where do I go? Right? But you go to the good websites, the ones that convert really well, you come on and there's one direction, maybe two in the same spot, depending on what you're looking for. Very clear. When you go into a networking event, it's like a traditional networking event. It's like walking into a bad website, right? You're walking and you're like, where do I go? Do I go to that class, to that speech, to this, vendor? What are my goals? Where am I going? What am I doing? Right? So our goal over here is the name of the event is called Intentional Networking, because it's intentional. We're going to be doing a lot of engineering behind the scenes to make sure that every single person that comes in there, it's going to be limited to, you have to get this number, it's going to be limited to 76 people, because everything is intentional. And it's starting at 7:42 p.m. because it's intentional. But it's the idea is it's going to be, we're engineering it to be, everyone should walk up. We want to know what you want to get out of the event. What's your goal? And we want to engineer it to make sure you can get that. And it'll
Wow,
be
that's
the most
amazing.
fascinating, interesting event. If you know Ellie Linger at all,